was asked this question.
Yes.
He gave an answer.
Yes.
I want you to listen to
Thank you. I'll listen to it.
Good. Let's take a listen to the Attorney General on this matter of, okay, if Abutrika is going to be extradited, then he should leverage that and ask for some collaboration from the U.S. authorities to also get Ofori-Atta back into the country. He referenced this same 1931 treaty and the conditions therein. Take a look.
Documentation to ensure completeness. On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided a requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised. There, we communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation to ensure completeness. On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided a requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised. There, we communicated these observations to the Office. You will recall that the Office of the Special Prosecutor investigated acts of corruption and corruption-related offenses by the former finance minister and his accomplices, and proceeded to file charges in the High Court of Justice against them. On November 19th, 2025, that is this year, my office received a formal request from the Office of the Special Prosecutor to initiate extradition proceedings for Kenneth Ofori-Atta and NS Darko Akori from the United States of America. Following a preliminary review, our International Cooperation Unit observed that certain aspects of the request required clarification and enhancements to align with the applicable legal and procedural requirements. We communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation.
Entire process and how this has been over the period. Dr. Addo?
Yes, I'm saying that. So whatever it is, even the laws, because they didn't know about the law in November. They knew about the law or whatever the process do was known in January, in February, in March, in April, in May. And if something of such magnitude, you already know it, you can expedite it. So my question is that, yes, whether you are lost or no, no. But the question is whether it is there.
In fairness, Doc, the differences was with the format that the AG wanted the docket to be. The OSP presented the docket in a particular format.
Yes.
But the AG wanted it in another way. So these were the
format alone took 1 full year. That's what I mean.
It was important.
I'm just saying it's not important. No.
And
just okay, you've done it again. Let me go ahead.
Okay. Very well.
Format is important. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if format alone takes 1 full year, then there's I see administrative inertia and effectiveness. That's my point. But this Tamaklo case, I'm saying that again, right now it's not too late. In this particular, it's not too late. The man is here. The guy they want is here. You can bargain, because you see, sometimes it's international issue, you can draw a hard bargain. That's what I'm saying. Again, we are not, this woman cannot say, oh, if I go to Ghana, they won't treat me fairly. Well, you've already been convicted. This woman cannot say, I'm afraid of my shadow in Ghana. No, you've been convicted. And also to add to the AG's negotiation, he can make the case that, look, you committed these crimes when the NDC was in power. Your political opponents were the NPP, so maybe you were afraid that if the NPP got you the multitude, NPP is out of power. NDC is back to you. The people who appointed you then are here. Some of them are actually still the appointed authority. So my point is that if the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana goes ahead to send this young man there, would that at least bring him back one of the 2 people we need, either Sedinam or Ken, he would have been doing this nation a great disservice.
Okay.
If he goes ahead and does it, I'm saying the man is still here. We are not in a hurry. You can put him in jail. You can put him wherever. Don't send this man and receive nothing and empty-handed. If you're sending him, send both of them. If you don't do that, you will have failed this country, and we have failed this country in a very, 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 very big way.
Manaseh Azore Awoni is an investigative journalist. He's also joining us on Zoom on this particular matter as well, because he's done quite some work with regard to this SML, which is a subject of investigation as well as the prosecution against or of Kenneth and Ofori-Atta. In fact, it's in that case that you have the 78 charges and others slapped on him and Estakore. Manaseh is joining us.
Manaseh, the US that they will not extradite a police officer because of that. So we can use this as an example. Tell this person, also send this person.
Hold on. Manaseh, can you unmute for me? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And Mr. Owusu, this is what the Attorney General has given to us in terms of the updates. What is of issue is whether the days after this particular request for extradition of Ofori-Atta should be left solely to the discretion and the period that the U.S. authorities will work on, because that's what he says. He says much of it is outside of his control. So there are no timelines. We can't even tell when it's going to come. Professor Bafaj-Mendia, based on his experience and knowledge of this extradition processes, it can take quite a while. And so it appears we may have to wait for a long time with Ofori-Atta hiring top lawyers to fight this.
There is no top lawyer that can defend a criminal and succeed.
But you can't actually call him a criminal.
No, I'm just, I've not said he's a criminal.
You are not referencing, this statement is not in direct reference to
No. If it is reference, I'll say it. Okay, right. But the point is that if you have stolen, you have stolen. If the country knows that Mr. ABCD has stolen and you have caught him red-handed, no amount of advocacy from a lawyer will save the situation if truth will prevail. If the government does not push, they must push the United States of America to do what is right. We cannot be saying that someone is sitting on our billions and you hide under the cover of laws in the U.S. and say that he must remain there while these twinkle latest Abu Trika and go are only taking under 10 million, you come and quickly take them. No. But you see, Alfred, why we are where we are today is that our legislative arm has disappointed this country.
What do you mean?
The parliament of the last administration, the 7th and the 8th parliament, we must heap all the blames on them for not defending the integrity of this country. Ofori-Atta, are you surprised with it? With what is happening? In 1999, 1998, the Obotan Development Limited scandal, that criminality, that took away $2.4 million from snitch. Everyone who mattered in Ghana's politics knew of that. Some of us in 2017, when he was going for vetting, we petitioned Parliament that do not approve this man because SFO investigation has revealed that he has to be prosecuted for swindling the whole state institution.
You reference which SFO reported?
SFO report, I'll get you the report. I mean, SFO did a comprehensive report on the Obotan Development Limited when they created the impression that they were going to put up assets. Here, this, your...
So what was the response of Parliament's Appointments Committee based on this?
They wouldn't even have courtesy to respond to you. They did not ask a single question on that matter. They approved him to be your Minister of Finance. That came, we thought that the MPP had an overwhelming majority then, so they could pass through. Then, thankfully, the Ghanaians did not do us any evil. They gave us a hung parliament. And here is why I come to the National Democratic Congress. They gave us a hung parliament in 2020. 2021, we went back and told them that do not approve Ofori-Atta for he would destroy this country. At that time, I was in the MPP. Interestingly, the man was able to defer his vetting. He went and stayed in the U.S. and they told him that he was sick. The same thing he's doing today. And refused to attend the vetting on time. Interesting, Parliament, overwhelmingly from both sides. They approved of his nomination. So if you had an issue of Obotan having swindled the entire country, and you allow him to get away with it.
You make available that report.
I will make it available. There's everywhere, SFO everywhere. You think he will not have, he wouldn't have been emboldened to swindle the entire country in all the scandals we are discussing? You ask, ask a simple question. Prof?
It's a matter of investigation.
Which one?
As to whether he has swindled or not.
You see?
Is it not?
the Attorney General...
That's why I'm saying that the Attorney General himself,
yes,
having said this,
yes,
to the extent that this is a matter in issue,
yes,
you can't make such a conclusive statement.
The thing is that when the Attorney General goes to court or the OSP goes to court, they do not say alleged. They say the man has stolen. That's what I go with.
They are charging him.
They are charging him
and they
for
have
stealing.
To prove beyond
so
reasonable doubt.
You see, my tax pays the Attorney General, he pays the OSP. He said he has stolen.
So the charge, which is
the charge says he has stolen. That is what I'm going with.
So I'm not arguing with you.
Yes.
I'm only telling you that there's a charge.
Yes.
Which has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt.
I don't have a problem.
So
but
you don't have to make conclusive.
No, the man says the charge. So what I'm saying is that if we had dealt with Obotan case constructively and seriously, he wouldn't have become a finance minister, let alone to dissipate, lead, cause. The very reason he is in the United States must be the reason he must be in Ghana. He said he's sick. He's attending Mayo Clinic. What investment did he make in infrastructure, in terms of health infrastructure, so that the ordinary Ghanaian, when he's sick, he can also receive such treatments? He has our money. He was controlling affairs. So he has the luxury of attending expensive health centers. What about the ordinary Ghanaian? Now, on the 24th of January 2025, the OSP told us that he has officially notified Ofori-Atta that he was under investigation on 5 different cases. Remember this, one out of the 5. He spoke of the PDS, he spoke of the National Cathedral and so on. So this is one aspect of it. Now, on the 31st of January, the lawyers in this country, sometime in fact that you are doing your advocacy, you must also have the country at heart.
What do you mean by
what did his lawyers say? The lawyers came to tell us that he was out of the jurisdiction, he was never going to come back. And that they were ready to be answering whatever questions the OSP had. You were going to answer questions on criminality. Were you the ones that were the finance ministers? To have told the entire country that you were ready to answer questions.
But that's not wrong.
What is wrong about if you are being charged on criminal matters, you will go and answer?
Okay. Are you faulting his lawyers for doing their job?
Now listen, I'm giving you chronology of events. Now, when the OSP said on the 5th of February that look, we will not accept this claim, they quickly introduced a letter from Mayo Clinic, fake one as such. Fake one as such.
It was proven to be fake.
Everything about that document was fake.
Did you write to Mayo Clinic?
When you send them email, nobody answers. And I'm saying it's fake.
Because they didn't respond.
Nobody had, look, that letter they brought was never addressed to any governmental agency. So whom were they writing to? All of a sudden, that letter popped up. That letter, they came to tell us that Ofori-Atta was going to come to this country on the 2nd of June. On the 2nd of June. A federal rather even went to court. Said in Parliament that he was going to come in May. The OSP said 2nd of June, we will expect him. That was when they started playing games with us. I've told you that if we are not going to be serious as a country, these people will swindle us. So, Ofori-Atta is never going to come today, it's never going to come tomorrow. What it is that he has accepted that indeed he is sitting on our money, I won't come with the money. That's what he's telling us.
Well, you see...
That's what he's telling us.
And that is the point where Manaseh earlier, when we spoke, Manaseh, I'm going to bring you in, but I just wanted Dr. Zato to know this, that, you see, when the Attorney General was asked the question of this extradition, what he referenced as reciprocal extradition, that you have this person, I need this person, so bring this other person. That answer, we're going to pull up the video for you. But his response was quite clear, that they have made an application both for Ofori-Atta, and not just him alone, and Sedinam Tamaklo as well. Okay, so that process is in place. You want them to now say that because you need Abutrika, bring one of the two. It is not within the domain of the Attorney General, he says, to, as it were, make that particular demand, because there's a treaty that outlines exactly what has to be done.
Why
but
not?
They Sedinam Tamaklo and also Ofori-Atta have both been the subjects of a request for extradition. That is what the Attorney General gave us in that update. Manaseh, if the Attorney General says that what happens after today is not within his control, are there other alternatives that could be looked at in getting Ken Ofori-Atta to come and answer questions and not just leave it to as long as this extradition process will take, which we are learning that it will take quite a while, especially because of Ken Ofori-Atta exercising his rights to get top lawyers to fight this?
Well, thank you very much. And I think when some of us, myself and Mr. Martin Kpebu, were concerned about certain delays, even in starting the investigation, some people wanted us to just say, well, the process has finally finished. So what is your point in all of this? If certain actions perhaps were taken earlier, some of these things would have been avoided. But having said that, it is often very difficult, even in this country. And I'm making a general example that the petty thieves are very easy to deal with. The grand thieves are difficult to deal with. If someone steals a tuber of yam, within a week, we read news that they are jailed 5 years or a number of months. But if somebody steals $5 billion belonging to the state, it takes forever, even if they are in the country, because they have the resources to be able to frustrate the system, to hire the best of lawyers, and do everything they can to. Sometimes it even goes beyond the legal. Some even have international connections that they pull strings to defend them in this situation. So the Attorney General is partly correct, but the part I don't agree completely with him is to suggest that, well, it is out of our hands. I know, I'm not an expert, but I know that beyond the legal issues, there are also some international relations issues, how Ghana relates with the US. There are many things that go on behind the scenes. And if anybody follows immigration issues in the US these days, there are students with valid visas who have, for one reason or the other, been refused entry while they are coming back. Some have even been permanent residents in the US. And sometimes when you read the reports, the response from the government is that, look, you don't have the right to be in the US. It is a privilege. And so we have had reports of certain people being deported who have permanent US citizenship and all of that. The point I'm trying to make is that beyond the law, there are other means through which some of these bilateral relations can be, or issues can be conducted behind the scenes. Some diplomatic pressures can be brought to bear. Some people are fighting back home here that Ghana has accepted some deportees to West Africa without following the law and all of that. Of course, a number of countries have also been put on certain travel restrictions to the US. Ghana has been taken off. So there are many trade-offs that go on behind the scenes that we do not know. But I think that if the state of Ghana is very committed, the Attorney General at this point should go beyond what has been done. It is a bit disturbing to hear, quoting the Attorney General, that the office received a formal request for extradition on the 19th of November. This is almost a year after Ken Ofori-Atta had left. And of course, those of us who pursued this case and petitioned the OSP know that, as Dr. Zato is saying, why should it take a year? And I hear my friend Justice Abdullah talking about formalities. The main point is, which I made when these controversies emerged, was that at the time Ken was leaving, there was no investigation being done. So the investigation has now completed. It is delayed. And if we are requesting it now, it will take some time. And if I do not want to even talk like a doomsday prophet, it is possible that this Attorney General would finish his tenure without Ken coming back if all these legal dribblings are to be exhausted and all of that. But the government of the Republic of Ghana may need to just say, well, we have done a request, so let's sit down. If that happens, we may not likely get any response soon, but we have other trade-offs that we are currently engaged in with the United States, which I think all of those ones should be triggered. And by the 14th of February 2026, Ken Ofori-Atta's US visa will have expired. He will be vulnerable, and within that period, anything can happen. So the point is that the Attorney General should not just say we have done our part. The government of Ghana shouldn't say we have written. Normally, even when we write letters here in our country and you don't follow up, someone may leave it somewhere. So much has to be done to ensure that Ken comes back to answer for the pain he's put people through. If you were at the Ministry of Finance and you would wake up and see people who had served the nation diligently, gone on retirement, and could not afford medications because their bonds and investments were locked, and these were locked because the state borrowed in our name, dissipated those funds, got us into so much debt, and everybody was suffering. As we speak, from time to time, I have people who tell me even Ken's own data bank, they have investment there that they cannot get as and when they need it. And all of this mess has been supervised by someone who would see old men crying, but still have the courage to do deals such as SML. And I think we need to bring such a person back to the country to face a trial, just like others are doing. Those who are here are not dead. Nobody has put them in Sawam without trial. So I see no reason why he should be running away.
Lawyer Martin Kpebu says the citizens' power is one of the alternatives that can be exercised in this regard. He's talking about demonstrations, peaceful protests, to submit a petition to the U.S. Embassy, for instance, is that a potent tool to deploy? And this is a question I'll ask you, Amaliba, as well. Yes, Manaseh.
Yes, it is part of the pressure. One thing I've realized is that in any society that the government takes people seriously, the people who are in charge of affairs are not just angels. The government will take you seriously when you take yourself seriously. So if we, the citizens, go to bed, if we, the citizens, sometimes even begin to attack those putting their life on the line for our collective interest, and they begin to ask you, so what is your interest? Why do you hate this person so much? And all of that. I think if our government gets to know that, look, we as a people are serious about it. We want the government of Ghana to put pressure and some diplomatic more work into this process. But they will not just get up and act if nothing is happening. Sometimes when the pressure comes, you see some of the responses from the OSP, the Attorney General, and others, when there is heat on them. So my point is, we shouldn't just go to bed also as a people. Whatever mild pressure, hard pressure that we can put on our duty bearers and tell them that, look, it shouldn't be just business as usual. There have been certain lapses in the past that allowed this man to go out, but there is a way to bring this person back. Get up and act.
Right.
We should be able to put that pressure and then hope that the leaders who are acting on our behalf will respond to it and act appropriately.
Manaseh, thank you. Lawyer Godwin Ejudi Tamaklo says, good morning, Alfred and your esteemed panelists. Tell Dr. Zato it should be like for like. Ken has charges filed against him in Ghanaian court Abutrika has been indicted in the United States. It should be like for like. Bringing the said Tamaklo into this conversation, he says, is mischievous and diversionary. Red herring, Ken for Abutrika, like for like. That is what lawyer Edward Tamaklo says. But in fact, on this particular issue, and lawyer Martin Kpebu, I bring in here because that argument of like for like was a question that was put to the Attorney General. We were trying to pull up the video earlier, but we have it. And this was his response to it. Take a look.
The principle of reciprocity, whether we should expect that the U.S. authorities, having taken some Ghanaians by way of extradition to the United States of America, will also, in exchange, reciprocate by extraditing Ken Ofori-Atta to Ghana. Now, the principle of reciprocity underlines extradition proceedings. And usually, without a bilateral treaty or a multilateral treaty arrangement that obligates a state to extradite persons accused of crime that are found within its territory to another country, usually extradition cannot take place. In the case of Ghana and the United States of America, there is a 1931 extradition treaty that was signed between the United States of America and Great Britain when Ghana was a colony of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, that treaty expired as far as the United Kingdom is concerned. So it's no longer applicable between the United States and the United Kingdom. But it has not expired. It was renewed when we became independent in 1957. And so it is still in existence between Ghana and the United States. Now, if you look at Article 3,
Attorney General, responding to this like-for-like reciprocal, proposal that has been made, that, well, if we need Ken Ofori-Atta, then we are giving Abutrika and others, then we should make that demand as well. That's his explanation to it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, it's good. It's good. The key part we should be celebrating now is the fact that citizens, you see this Abutrika argument, that citizens saying Abutrika should be extradited on condition that Ofori-Atta will be brought, okay? Seems to me to have come from ordinary citizens who are not lawyers. Yes. And that's something we should be celebrating. On social media, people started raising that point. It doesn't appear to me that it's legal experts and political commentators who started it. And so I'm very happy about it. So it tells you that ordinary citizens are engaged. And when you have citizens engaged, then you generally will get better outcomes in democracy, right? Yeah, because then in that case, it helps in what we call the whole of society approach or whole of government approach, where government is doing or undertaking activities and brings on board the citizenry. Because the citizenry form the nation. So where government is engaged on any activity and the citizens are not engaged, the citizens are not supporting, you won't get the best. So I like it. So let's continue to push. Let's continue to push. And remember, more than 4 weeks ago, I mentioned here earlier that we would, in due course, organize a demonstration. So the argument that we should bring Ofori-Atta down as a quid pro quo, and that's the word the Americans like, quid pro quo, that's
something for something.
Something, yes. Yes, it's something that we should keep pushing because, and when we go on the demonstration, that's what I mentioned about more than 4 weeks ago when we were discussing this topic. The demonstration, the numbers, they will snap the numbers, they will cover the demonstration to the U.S. Embassy. When we demonstrate, go there peacefully and hand over a petition to the ambassador for onward transmission to the Attorney General of the U.S. and the Secretary of State, and in fact, President Donald Trump. They will look at the numbers that go for the demonstration, etc. Then they will understand that this extradition is as much political as legal. The legal alone doesn't cut it. Look, under U.S. law, you know that when the judge finishes the case certifying that Ofori-Atta can be extradited, the Secretary of State can look at other factors and say no. Under U.S. law, let's be very clear. The judge who will decide doesn't have the final say as to whether Ofori-Atta will come here or not. It's not for the judge. The judge is basically to look at the treaty and those things and decide that, oh yes, under the treaty, these things have been met. The lawyers will argue otherwise. I mean, all I'm saying is that no matter the proceedings, at the end of the day, the final decision from the courts is not the final decision to bring Ofori-Atta down. The final decision lies with the Secretary of State. That's the equivalent of our foreign minister, right? Right? So once we begin to engage and they see that, oh, there's a lot of politics in this whole extradition process, etc., the Americans will take us more seriously.
That will not dovetail into political persecution.
Yes. So we are coming to that.
That would be a flag, a red flag.
Yes, yes, because the political persecution you've mentioned is one of the things the Secretary of State can use. Yes, he can look at it, even though the courts will also be looking at it. I remember I mentioned earlier that in one of the extradition cases I did a few years ago, well, now it's over 8 years, or about 10 years ago, Professor Tefa, the UK court didn't bring down the person because the report we wrote, we went to the prisons, looked at it, and then wrote a report. The prison conditions in Ghana were so bad, and that's one of the things. They didn't bring down the person. So this thing about political persecution is something the Secretary of State can use and not bring down Ofori-Atta. Of course, we are not, it's not a political persecution, but we're just making the point that under law, the Secretary of State, he's a politician, so he's allowed to use humanitarian grounds, political persecution, that's the witch hunting thing, statute of limitations, and many other things. It's a discretion. So let's start it this way.
Right.
It's a discretion that the Secretary of State, their foreign minister, will exercise after the court is done. So it's not just a legal battle. It's also a political battle. So there are two battles to be fought. After the court is done, there's also a political one. And that's how come we have to arrange our ducks in a row early. We have to, you know, like the wise maidens in the Bible, we have to go with extra oil. So we are not just going to the legal battle. We, across the table here, and the actors, the netizens, we have to start the political fight early by starting our demonstrations, etc., to tell the American government that, look, this one is very political, so they better get it right. We will not allow that Ofori-Atta doesn't come here, but we will keep extraditing. And I like Solomon Owusu's word. We keep extraditing little twinkle stars, right? You see, so they must bring the Ofori-Atta. And let's not forget this, that, you see, in the U.S., you know, their economy is not in the best of shapes. They are struggling. They have cost of living issues, etc. And you see how recently Donald Trump had to capitulate to the Saudis because he needs investment. So the death of Jamal Khashoggi, you know, Biden, they were raising human rights issues a lot under Biden. Donald Trump sees actually he wants the Saudis to continue to invest in the U.S. So he has to throw away human rights consideration. I mean, long story short, to attract investments, Donald Trump does a lot more than just legal, there's legal considerations. So he would. So the argument I'm making here is that because Ofori-Atta has invested heavily in the U.S., there is that key consideration. Okay. He has invested heavily.
It's heavily.
You see, so it makes it difficult. And he has also applied for permanent residence. Remember, some weeks ago, I mentioned that my information is that he has applied to be a permanent resident. That he's on his way to becoming a citizen again. You know, he was once a citizen, and then he had to give it up, etc., became finance minister. He wants to become a citizen again, so he's applied to be a permanent resident. So the matters are getting complex. So, was it Abdullah who mentioned or somebody? Manaseh also mentioned the diplomacy. So we have to begin to negotiate diplomatically how we will bring him down. It's not just the courtroom. Right. The courtroom, in this case, I don't think, well, I think that, let's just put it this way, the diplomatic negotiations, the political, and of course, it also, the diplomacy will dovetail and can cover the whole of the politics as well.
Okay.
that is where we should be looking at. That Ofori-Atta has investments in the U.S. And when it comes to investments, Donald Trump, as president of the U.S., would want to protect investors, like how he's done with the Saudis. He's thrown Jamal Khashoggi under the bus. It's like, oh no, it's not about human rights. He needs investment. So it's a complex matter. It's a very serious, complex matter. That's why we have to start by mobilizing our citizens to send them a petition that, look, we understand this thing. We understand the game. We are no longer as naive as those days, so that we'll leave this conversation to a few people on TV. In actual fact, we've shown, our citizens have shown the way. They started it on the net, that before Abu Trika goes, our government should get assurances that the U.S. government will also bring that Ofori-Atta, notwithstanding the millions of dollars Ofori-Atta has invested in the U.S.
All right. If what the AG is saying is to go by, if we leave this to the process, then it's going to take quite a while. We have a long process, and there's been that advocacy for other avenues to be explored, so as to get Ofori-Atta to come answer the questions being asked on the basis of accountability, accounting to the people for the power and the resources given to him. Should it be one that the AG should take into cognizance of, at least because of his own position, that if it is left to just the extradition request, we'll have to wait for quite a while?
The Attorney General has not hidden the fact that this is going to take some time. And he has told the whole country. But what is important is that he has started the process. On other things like we should exchange people for others, I don't think that is within the remit of the Attorney General. That could be diplomatic. And maybe the Foreign Affairs could trigger those things. But on any day, truth is important. Being candid to the facts are important. And for me, I'll stand on the side of a drunkard who speaks the truth than the person who goes to church to pray every day and lies. Why am I saying this? Sedinam was convicted under the Akufo-Addo administration. When she was accused, or when she was standing trial, there was no extradition request. When she was convicted, there was no extradition request. At that time, we have an Attorney General. Today, another government has come. And this government and its Attorney General has made requests for bringing back Sedinam to serve the remaining of her term here. And what are we hearing? What kind of convoluted analysis and convoluted comparisons are this? Who bears the brunt of not bringing Sedinam? Is it the previous government and its Attorney General, or the current administration and its Attorney General? So that's why me, on any day, I'll stand on the side of a drunkard who speaks the truth than a churchgoer who comes back and lies to the people. But the issue about Ken Ofori-Atta is this. We are accusing him of a number of things. One of it is matters relating to SML, matters relating to conflict of interest, sometimes outright corruption. IYOKO and SOP have provisions in their law that says that you can freeze a man's property when these matters are being investigated. Ofori-Atta is using the resources that we claim were wrongly or ill-gotten to fight us in the U.S. court. What do? Don't you cut off the oxygen? Forget about his investment in the U.S. But in Ghana, can't can't you cut off the oxygen? Because those resources are what he's using. How many Ghanaians, if they want to be extradited, can afford top lawyers in the US? So me, I'm asking the authorities, the Yoko and the SOP, what is delaying the freezing of Ofori-Atta's properties? We all agree that he needs to come back home and account. But is it also the case that, because me, as I am in road safety now, I believe that I am serving the people of this country with all my heart. So it will be difficult for me to be thinking about preparing my exit from this country. You get my point? So is it that Ofori-Atta went into this office with a criminal mind and planned his movement? These are questions for the gods, some for the beasts. I don't get it. I don't get the way he was able.
You didn't believe in the beasts or the gods.
I don't get. You see, the way the man planned the whole thing, it's difficult for me. So he knew that when I was taking SIC insurance matters to Enterprise Life, it was wrong, but I'll still do it. Or he knows when I was doing the haircut, it was wrong, so I'll still do it. I don't get it, but we are where we are, and sometimes I tend to agree with Martin, but he's too hard on the special prosecutor. This man shouldn't have left in the first place.
Exactly.
But that one is not
Ofori-Atta shouldn't have left. So
no, but the reason why I don't support him wholeheartedly is that we were dealing with a government whose apparatchiks were unstoppable. But I hear him say that we could have raised an alarm.
Yes.
But how it won't stop him from going.
Oh no, it would have.
It won't stop. It won't stop. It won't stop.
No.
Right. So for me, I think that
if you had put it on TV3,
how will you go to the airport and stop him?
Oh yes.
Thank you.
So I think that there's more to this matters than just meet the eye.
Right. Are you a salaried worker?